Hi everyone on the psych. Have a video today on basically a book called The Narcissist in Your Life. This is by Julie Hall from 2019. Of course, I'll add my own little tidbits in as well, so it's not going to be in its pure form. And I'm just kind of picking out kind of the gems that I liked. So it'll be up to you, basically, if you want to read the book to get a lot more information, if you want to do that. So let me just jump into it, and I start off with a lot of things that she says about narcissists in terms of descriptors. So she says, the narcissist is profoundly selfish, but lacks a core self. Okay, real important. They have like they're lacking in something internal. Okay, dismisses others' abilities and achievements and overestimates their own. Pretty typical. Feels intense shame and readily shames and blames others. Is hypersensitive to slights and criticism while being hypercritical of others. Kind of projects that out. Expects a free pass, but is intolerant and unforgiving. Expects adoration, but treats others with indifference or contempt. And this is not 100% of the time, but this is something that you would see happening frequently. I'll say frequently, it's easier to say. Demands loyalty and support, but readily betrays and abandons. Now, narcissists are notoriously resistant to psychotherapy. Usually, it is tough, especially when you're dealing with people that are what are called cluster B individuals, borderline individuals, and narcissistic individuals, people that fall in that cluster B category. Now, although narcissists can be quite calculating, they are usually driven by unconscious emotions. Okay, now this is going to separate them a little bit from sociopaths or antisocial personality disorder individuals. I'm just going to say sociopaths. So the narcissist, a lot of things are just kind of done unconsciously. Actually, the sociopath is the one who can really be kind of calculating. All right. Now, she mentions, this is kind of neat, I think. She says if they're not feeling threatened, they can actually be fun to be around. And can't remember if it's in the book or not, but just from what I've read, a lot of times people that have achieved quite a bit are actually falling on that narcissistic personality disorder continuum. Narcissists derive their identity through the belief that they are special and should associate with other special people, causes, etc. And they devalue those they view as underlings or competitors. Okay. They have excessive need for attention. Okay, so you can see a cluster B, histrionics have this need for attention. Okay, so do individuals who are narcissists. Okay, and the difference between a narcissist and someone who's histrionic are the ego boundaries much more fluid with an individual who is a narcissist as opposed to someone who is histrionic. They actually have firm ego boundaries. There's different types of narcissists. She says exhibitionistic narcissists typically dominate socially, while closet narcissists use more passive-aggressive but equally insistent methods. Either way, they're vying for more attention and a leg up, is the way she puts it. Narcissists are concerned about getting support for their grandiose self-beliefs. They want somebody to mirror those back. Okay. Like I said before, narcissists lack whole object relations and object constancy, which means they vacillate between idealizing and devaluing themselves and others. Okay, so they have um, weak ego boundaries. They haven't established this complete sense of self yet. Okay, so they experience splitting. Pretty typical. Then you're going to have splitting. Things are all good, all bad. Again, that's going to be with individuals um, that have self issues or object relation issues. Um, that they have a big fear of being exposed. Narcissists are threatened by anyone who sees their flaws and fails to reflect back the version of themselves that they need to believe in. Okay. Fear of losing control. Anyone in their sphere must be controlled to sustain their self-beliefs. Okay. Fear of being humiliated. Any form of criticism, what might be a little slight to you, could be seen as a traumatic type of criticism to someone who is narcissistic. Now, this triggers what we call like narcissistic injury. You've probably heard those terms, or underlying shame. And they will humiliate others to avoid appearing vulnerable themselves. Now, I'm going over all the negative components of narcissists, but like the author said, they also can be very interesting and fun to be around. Just kind of depends on the circumstances, whether or not they feel threatened, or if they're kind of in a safe sort of environment. So that's important. Now, if someone apologized to them, often as a misguided attempt to end a conflict, they see it as proof of their righteous superiority. Okay. Now, if you apologize to a sociopath, on the other hand, or try to just make amends or something like that, the sociopath might actually see that as a sign of weakness, and maybe an indicator of, I'm going to be able to manipulate this person down the road when I want to. So interesting things when you're looking at different people, even though they're on the same cluster. Let's see. The APA in 2014 said that there's growing evidence that narcissists display significant impairment in emotional empathy, but little to no impairment in cognitive empathy. Okay, so they're good at like cognitive empathy would be like being able to take the perspective of the other individual, but in terms of emotionally experiencing what the other person is experiencing, that would be pretty difficult. Now, I keep on throwing sociopath in there. I'm going to have to do a video on sociopaths. But in any case, the sociopath also is good at taking the other's perspective, the cognitive empathy. And the sociopath can, if that person's able to kind of see what's going on from your eyes, can use this as an opportunity to say, how am I going to be able to use this to my benefit to take advantage of this person? Again, different sort of way of looking at things. Closet narcissists see themselves as exceptional and through their connection to people, institutions, causes, etc. So they idealize and derive a feeling of status from other individuals. Like, I volunteer for this organization to help the needy, or I donated so much money to this organization to help this particular cause. So even though it's like a nice gesture to do that, they're actually getting so much in terms of building up their sense of self and self-esteem through doing that. I mean, there's you know, they're really working on trying to feel better about themselves in that regard. So they frequently cultivate a self-sacrificing do-gooder persona, but it belies their ruthless self-interest and abusive family members. Okay, so you can see two entirely different people depending on the circumstances and the scenery. Okay. By contrast, we have the exhibitionistic narcissists, and they typically rely on extravagant displays to scaffold their shaky ego, or really I prefer to use their shaky sense of self. Okay. Now, unless they're malignant types, narcissists do not necessarily set out to hurt other people. So that's again different from sociopaths who consciously, you know, will go out and think about doing that. They are endlessly demanding. You know, they want attention, and they can be very tiring. And again, there's that overlap with individual who would be classified as histrionic, you know, where they want all that attention. They can be draining as well. Now, you probably won't remove a narcissist's mask because they defend it at all costs. Their inner sense of self is pretty fragile. Okay, they have an undeveloped sense of self. Trauma almost always involves not being seen, not being mirrored. Okay, like acknowledging what they're saying and not being taken into account. I read another book by Hedges, Listening Perspectives, I believe is basically the title of the book. And he gives the example of therapy where, you know, maybe if a person who is a narcissistic personality in therapy, you know, says something to you and, you know, is excited about what he or she did, and you as therapist don't reflect back or mirror back the same level of enthusiasm, this might be very upsetting to that individual, to the client. The person could even become very angry or rageful for not being, you know, not having that mirroring taking place. So it's interesting to get some of that information from the client if you're actually in a therapeutic situation, and to see how they handle if you've kind of just, in their eyes, disrespected them. Now, exhibitionistic narcissists often skip the normal stages of anger and skip right to rage. So that was kind of like what I was talking about before, where they have that narcissistic rage because they have that pretty fragile inner sense of self, and if you're not mirroring back what they want, it's painful for them, and it's going to come out in a lot of cases in a rageful manner because they feel injured. Basically, this is another term, you know, narcissistic injury. She makes the point, it's kind of sad, she makes the point, even when the narcissist is calm, the family often remains on guard for a possible attack. Okay. The narcissist mantra, it's your fault, you made me do it. Okay, so you project out, or the narcissist projects out and the responsibility is yours, not mine. So, to children, a narcissistic parent frequently doles out positive attention as intermittent reinforcement interspersed with neglect and abuse, keeping the children guessing and working for validation. Okay, that's the author's take on that. Here's an interesting point that she brings out. Narcissists need you far more than you need them. Assuming you're in a typical adult relationship where they're the ones that are really suffering, with that weak internal sense of self. So if you've got an intact sense of self, you have firm ego boundaries, basically, for the most part, you're okay. The narcissist, by contrast, is constantly having to deal with that fragile inner sense of self. Narcissists always need a scapegoat, and the scapegoated child can be it. And there's a lot of information out there, in terms of family dynamics. Often you have in the family, you might have one child who's the scapegoated child, and then you have one child who's the golden child, who kind of becomes like an extension of the narcissistic parent. Okay. In fact, that's in my notes. And the golden child is the privileged family favorite. And this child serves as a projection of what the narcissistic parent wants to believe about herself. So, narcissists, binary thinkers. Things are all good, all bad, black, white, beautiful, ugly, nothing in between. That's typical of individuals that have some issues with object relations, okay, and object constancy. They have that, they still haven't developed a firm sense of self yet. Okay, let me see. I think that's most of it. She gives some interesting point here. She says sometimes the worst models in life teach the most important lessons. So it's kind of like she's giving you an opportunity to learn a lot from individuals like this if you're living with them. That she does say that sadly, narcissists do not tend to age well. Their needs may intensify with age. Now, this is interesting to me that she says this because I know that at least with borderline personality disordered individuals, they tend to at least have fewer symptoms as they age, and they're on the same, cluster B in DSM-5. That's pretty much it, I think. I mean, just a lot of information that she puts out there. I tried to summarize it in a short manner. It went a little longer than I was wanting to, but if you want to get more information without my contaminating effects on it, then you would have to read the book. Okay, thank you.